Bitcoin just took a huge nosedive, so you better stick around. I'm Coach DZ. This is Around the Blockchain. And please hit the like button if you like the new ATB merch. You can see it at hitmerch.com. Let's get right into it. We have a fantastic show with some great guests lined up. All right, on the top left, we have Tim Warren. Don't confuse his last name. He doesn't like any banking broads. Tim_TA. Did we get your Twitter right? Is it Tim A?
You know, that is definitely not my Twitter, but I'm sure someone has Timma_TA. Mine would have an S there instead of an A. But you know what? Timma TA sounds like a good name for today.
They're right next to each other. Oh, and he has the fattest fingers in the business, is what we always say. He's known for it. We always talk about it. In fact, we have shirts printed out. All right. Also on today's episode, we have one of my favorite rappers. It's Cassius Cuvee. He's always, you know what he does? He likes those algo raps, but he likes to buy when algo craps. Where is algo at? Have you been buying more lately?
I have, actually. Yes, I did just buy some algo. Thanks for having me on, Coach DZ. I do like the new swag you guys got there, Hit Network. But yeah, for sure. Buy the dip. You know how it is.
Oozing quality. You got to feel it to believe it. Also on today's episode, we have Miss Teen Crypto. She just celebrated her 100th episode, a zesty one, not a manic one. Where can they find that at?
YouTube.com/MissTeenCrypto, live Monday through Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern. See you guys there. Thank you for the shout, by the way.
Congrats on the 100 episodes. Good job there. And also, last but not least, we have Piano Matty B. His latest thumb featured the Joker. But don't you dare ever ask for that Steve Miller song to be played. Piano Matty B, what is your least favorite song to be requested?
Oh, well, you know what? I like any song that people love to hear, right? So I've played Sweet Caroline probably a million times. But if people want it, I'll give it to him.
Hey, I was going to guess Small Town Girl, but Sweet Caroline also up on there. All right, let's get right into it and talk about Bitcoin. Looks like it just recently had a crash. We have Piano Matty B, some of the best TA, definitely the funniest TA in the business. Before we get into, the clogged up blockchain, we have all these inscriptions, we got all these things. We have more than a day's worth of backlog currently. The price is crashing is down. It's down around 5% on the day. Looks like 4.7%. Right at 27,500. What is going on? Why do we have this leg down? And please don't tell me that Head and Shoulders is going to play out.
Well, over on the 4-hour chart, we have a tale of two support levels. The first is our support line to our channel of eternal monotony at 27.8 that we have broken out and down from. Our second support line is from our descending channel, and that's at 27K. Now, that's a very important level to hold because, as you can see over on the daily chart, that's where old Mr. Clean's neckline breaks in his Head and Shoulders pattern. And to find the price probability of this pattern ends, say it with me now, DZ. You take the pole, you slide it all to the breakout point, and then we're all at 23K. Sheesh. You got any good news? Well, kind of, and thanks for asking. This can all turn around with the failure of more banks. But of course, old Scotch on the Rocks booze breath Jerry Pow stated, and I quote, "Conditions in the banking sector have broadly improved since early March, and the U.S. banking system is sound and resilient." So there you go, Dizzy. How can he be wrong? He's in charge of this whole Fiat Ponzi house of cards, don't you know?
All right, I feel like I'm going to have to check myself into the facility you're currently at after experiencing you, I guess is the best way to put that. Great TA, 10 points, well-deserved. I got to just do another one just because you have the DZ cameo there. All right, now, Cassius, we're seeing a lot of scary action with Bitcoin, but there's maybe a reason. It could be part of the congestion. Also, a little Binance FUD we'll touch on in a second. It looks like I just checked. This is about an hour and a half ago, so just bear with me. It's going to not entirely be up to date. 453,000 unconfirmed transactions stuck in the mem pool right now. Is the memory pool, it has the memory of all the unsigned or incomplete transactions backlog. A lot of this is the ordinal inscriptions, the BRC20 tokens. Some are saying the blockchain is held under hostage right now. To clear it out, it would need 193 blocks. This is about an hour ago. 10 minutes a block. That is nearly a full day and a half, more than a day and a quarter here. So just to sum it up, Cassius, what are your thoughts on BRC20s and ordinals? Are these Yay or nay? Are these good or bad for Bitcoin?
Well, that's a great question. I'm glad we're bringing this up now too, because for those of us who believe in Bitcoin for the future, naturally, pretty much everybody watching this show, we do need to figure this out going forward. I mean, is Bitcoin going to be a store of value? If that's the case, then you're going to be buying it and you're going to be holding it. You're not going to be doing as many transactions anyways. If you're going to be using it every day to buy coffee and candy bars or whatever the case may be, then a lot of transactions in the future can definitely slow down the protocol, in which case maybe that's what some people might turn to altcoins for. I tend to look more at Bitcoin as a store of value. I don't really want to spend my Bitcoin. So these slowdowns, the congestion, it sucks, obviously, if you're trying to transact on it. But for probably most of the holders of Bitcoin on a day-to-day basis, it doesn't affect them. And I think that like long-term, it's something that's going to have to kind of be shaken out. So those things are going to wait and see.
All right, that's a good breakdown. As a store of value, shouldn't affect it that much. You brought up the transaction fees. They're up 340% over the last just 11 days. It looks like the average transaction fee currently coming in around $20 at the moment here. Now, looking at some Binance FUD as well. Now, Miss Teen Crypto, there's a huge amount of Bitcoin was moved, $4.4 billion worth. A lot of FUD was spreading. A lot of people, is some whale withdrawing? What's going to happen? Is this going to hit, other exchanges? Can we expect this to get sold? Looks like it was just an internal transfer, so nothing too major there. But I don't know if any of the dump currently is affected by that. But at the time, you can definitely see that little bit of that wick as the short sellers just hit the market. What is your thoughts on Binance's power over the markets? Just the amount of power that they wield as an exchange, does that concern you in the long term?
I think over the long term, no, because I think a lot of people are going to want their Bitcoin, which means more withdrawals from Binance, which means inevitably maybe they won't have as much. I do think overall it doesn't affect the decentralization of Bitcoin. So I know a lot of people are complaining, oh, this person holds too much Bitcoin and maybe they could sell it off. I mean, there's always someone on the other side of the trade. That's one. So if you're selling Bitcoin, someone else is definitely going to buy it from you. And two, I think it doesn't affect the decentralization. Like I said, it's not stopping Bitcoin from working. It's not stopping the blocks from continuing to go and from you being your own bank and having that store of value. So I think, of course, maybe selling pressure, it's a little bit of a touch, but in the long run, I don't really think it matters. I think as long as you control your Bitcoin, you're fundamentally able to sell, send, receive, transfer to whoever you want in the world, no matter where they are, what time it is. That's what's important to me.
Is $20 transaction fees too much?
I think it's a little bit much, but I think in the future, maybe it's going to even out. And I think this is like an experimental time where people are kind of figuring out, like, what can we do with Bitcoin? What can Bitcoin handle? I was gonna say kind of what Cassius was saying, where it's more of a store of value. And I think people are realizing that, where we have other L1s and other L2s that are meant to scale and handle this type of things. Like, even if you compare Bitcoin to, let's say, Litecoin, that has a penny or less in fees and is able to scale more, versus Bitcoin that's, again, meant to be that store of value and just hold money and send and receive money. And I think that's what people are coming to that conclusion. I'm all for the innovation. I think BRC20 tokens, they're getting exchange listings. They're starting to pick up steam. Are they really going to be used a lot in the long run when people, again, want to store their Bitcoin instead of spending it? I'm not too sure.
All right. Well, Tim, let's just wrap this up. And I kind of want to get your thoughts here. I'm going to throw some more stats at you. Some I've already said. Already close to 500,000 unconfirmed transactions, 450,000, 193 blocks need to be mined. That's over a day and a quarter here. Skyrocketing fees, 4.17 million ordinal inscriptions. In the long term, how do you see this playing out?
Well, first of all, DZ, shout out to anyone who's mining Bitcoin. You guys are loving this. This is actually awesome for them. And guess what? Miners have had a rough go recently. I know we're at all-time high hash rate now, and that's been going better. But remember, just a couple of months ago, there was a lot of fear in the space because miners were having to liquidate, despite the fact that we were super, super low in price action, because they just needed to keep the lights on. So miners right now are absolutely rejoicing. Something Randi said right there, I agree completely with. And I was talking with Johnny in the office earlier. For anyone who doesn't know, Johnny works here at the Hit Network. I think for me, what we're seeing happen, if it continues, if the maxis are not able to kind of get rid of the ordinals and get rid of BRC20, what we're seeing is kind of the solidification that Bitcoin if you were thinking it was going to become that currency that takes over the world and multiple countries are transacting in Bitcoin, and I'm not just talking about like paying taxes in Bitcoin or buying a house in Bitcoin. I'm talking about running down to the local gas station to grab a drink. I'm talking about getting your groceries. I don't think Bitcoin is going to be that, especially when we're looking at these types of fees, when we're looking at how much of a process it is to transact. I think the days, if that continues, the days of holding on to the hope that Bitcoin might be the currency we use rather than the dollar, I think that's not going to happen. What it will do is it'll open up a whole new world for a different crypto. I don't know if the crypto we're going to use has been created yet, if it's going to be some form of the stable coin. That's a whole discussion. Literally, Johnny and I had like probably a 30-minute conversation about what that currency needs to be so we can stop using fiat and how it needs to be backed. But the good news is that this will continue to drive value to Bitcoin. Bitcoin will still be a thing. Like I said, maybe you do want to buy a house. Maybe you do want to buy your car with Bitcoin. Maybe you just want to sit there and hold it and it'll be your store of value so that we can transact with our phones, or, with everything AI is going. I know there's that new thing where people can literally use their eyeballs and their hands to do stuff. Either way, I don't think Bitcoin's going to be constantly leaving and coming back into your wallet on the day-to-day basis. I think it's going to be a great store of value. It's going to be that digital gold that we've been calling it. It just will not be currency. And to some people, they're going to look at that as a disappointment. Other people will say that's what I thought all along.
Yeah, unless you're Mr. T, you're probably not interacting with gold on a daily basis. Outside of pawn shops, it's okay. Yeah, it seems like the panel largely agree. Great, really not much of an issue for the narrative of long-term store of value. Day-to-day payments narrative, yeah, definitely going to be a lot of pain moving forward. Well, talking about a coin, one coin to rule them all, there's a little bot called OpenAI ChatGPT. Maybe you've heard of it. Co-founded by someone named Sam Altman, the current CEO as well. And he has a crypto project that he has launched, and it is called WorldCoin. I know it sounds like a bad coin from a crappy TV show, but no, this is a real thing. WorldCoin, they have the @WorldCoin on Twitter if you want to check it out. Still relatively unknown, only 35,000. They are tweeting regularly. You can see the pinned tweet from 8 hours ago, 1 hour ago, 3 hours ago, 757. I mean, they're just pretty active community here. Well, this is a peer-to-peer based payment system you may have heard about, maybe forgot about. This was the protocol that wanted to scan your eyeballs. You guys probably remember it was probably about a year ago. And this is going to be, they just dropped their, this doesn't sound scary, human-only wallet that then must be verified to prove you are not AI. It runs on Polygon. It's called the World app. It can hold USDC, DAI, ETH, Wrap Bitcoin, and eventually their WorldCoin. WorldCoin isn't available to trade. Don't try to buy any right now. You will get scammed. And it's not just an iris scan, guys. You can also do a phone number, but they would like the iris scan if you can here. Now, WorldCoin, Tim, I'm going to ask you about, actually, you know what? No, because Piano Matty B lives in Canada, and he has much more of a concern about this and the fact that you wear glasses. That's why I'm asking you this. WorldCoin states that they do not store your iris data. So that just alleviates all your concern, correct?
Well, I mean, as long as they say they don't, then they don't. We have no reason to mistrust these massive organizations when it comes to our privacy. They've never let us down before, and DZ, let me assure you, they're never going to let us down again.
Ever, correct? Now, are you worried about this? Can't they just have our iris data? Can't they just pull it from a selfie? Is this too much of a concern to scan your iris, or is that full-blown, Twilight Zone era? I'm in a Black Mirror episode.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, I'm sure if they really wanted to, they could get it. But this all leads back to my theory that we're going to beg, not we, but most people are going to beg for a digital ID in some form because we just don't know what's real anymore with all these deep fakes and these deep voices. I need to give my iris, my fingerprint, anything, my tongue print, just so people know that I'm me and I'm not a deep fake. And just like everything that comes in this dystopia reality, we'll beg for it and then they'll give it to us and then we'll thank them in the end.
Hopefully no one does a tongue print. I don't want to tongue punch my microphone on my phone. Someone will probably think I'm doing something else, I'm sure, at the red light. All right, now, Miss Teen Crypto, this is a pretty good coin potentially to onboard a whole new realm of crypto non-natives here. I want to ask you, though, is this going to be the good strategy? Do you think it's going to be a Web2 native platform that onboards everybody? Something like a Cash App, you can already buy Bitcoin, maybe Twitter with what they might do with Doge, maybe even Apple as they integrate crypto? Or is this going to be a Web3 centric company like a WorldCoin or like a MetaMask? Who's going to be the winner here?
It seems like it's trying to be a Web2 thing, if that's the question. I don't know. I feel a little skeptical of this, especially because of, like, it's the same person that's behind OpenAI, ChatGPT, where we already know that it's biased. And of course, they're saying like they're not storing your iris information, but how do you really know that, right? And on top of that, I was looking into it, and they're also wanting to use account abstraction. Now, I think account abstraction is kind of the opposite of crypto, right? What they want to do essentially with account abstraction is you give your private keys and you give them permission, because what they're advertising is, oh, yeah, we'll have gas-free transactions. But that's if you do account abstraction and literally give your private keys up and then basically taking your digital identity. And that's where it kind of, for me, leads into like CBDCs, control from there, even though they're saying they're not storing information. You don't know that for fact. Like, I'm a little skeptical. The whole account abstraction thing throws me off completely because, again, I think it's like the anti-crypto. We want to sign our transactions. If we're interacting with the network, we're going to pay the gas fees, because then again, you're helping people that are help running the network. So, for me, I'm a little skeptical of this. And if they want to onboard people, I understand that it may be convenient. But at the end of the day, us being educated in crypto and other people seeing their freedoms being stripped away in order to have convenience, I don't think people want to do that anymore. So I don't know. I'm not feeling WorldCoin.
Okay, not feeling this globe is not spinning, it is screeched to a halt. Quick shout out to Thesis himself, altcoin maxis, hashtag we love DZ. Well, DZ loves the altcoins as well, and thank you for the love there. All right, well, Tim, it does seem like we are trending in a general direction, but I think about Visa and MasterCard. Essentially, unless the card's stolen, 100% of their transactions are KYC. They know who they issued the card to, or they know the entity that they issued it to. There must be someone that owns that. How do you feel about crypto trending in that direction?
I mean, oh goodness. I mean, obviously it's going to trend in that direction. That's all. It's all about control. To know your customer. I will say it makes sense on paper. So whenever people just go out and start off by just trashing KYC, we understand why it's there. The concept of crime and people using cryptocurrency to get around being known and to be anonymous to do other things. We understand what is there. The thing is, we just need to go back to the drawing board and say, that's not the way to go after and stop crime. Because even if, like right now, and I'm sure that this is what they want you to believe. We don't believe it, but this is what they want you to believe. They're not going to go after you. Them knowing who you are and all of your information, they're not going to use that against you. They want to protect you, and they want to protect everybody else and get rid of the bad players. The problem is, let's just even say, for the sake of argument, the current regime, the current government, the current operations, these exchanges, they all have your good intentions in mind. They just want to protect you. It's still setting a precedent for the next person to come in and exploit that information. And it's just a ticking time bomb waiting to happen. It's the reason why KYC is so dangerous, is because in the hands of a good person, it's not that harmful. In the hands of a bad person, it could destroy you, and it could ultimately lead to massive censorship worldwide, like what we've seen up with Matty B and his Canadian friends up there. We've seen them try to push over and over again here more recently to look more and more like China. And what's weird is we're seeing China start to move in the other direction, where they're getting more friendly with decentralized systems. So ultimately, this concept of Bitcoin and crypto moving closer towards KYC, it makes sense and it's understandable, but it's very, very important to continue to look for ones that do not have that. And it's very important to continue to fight, to call your congressmen, your senators, and continue to fight to stave off these types of things, so that there still is freedom down the line. And we'll see how it goes. I kind of feel, DZ, like this probably is going to be a losing battle. This is going to be one of the things that's just going to happen. There'll be certain countries here and there that kind of skirt around it. But if we're talking about the United States, we're talking about Canadians, I'm even talking about our European friends, brothers and sisters, I think it's just an inevitable thing. KYC is here, and you're going to have to deal with it.
All right, so a little hesitancy on your side to scan the iris there, I'm guessing. I too.
Oh yeah, I don't want to. I don't want to scan. Like, listen, I don't like anything going into my eye sockets. I'm blessed to have good eyes. Hopefully that never changes, but I don't like lasers at my eyeballs. No.
Shout out to when I had to get needles stuck in my eyes. Yeah, I am not one to scan my eye. In fact, I got something they can scan. You know what I'm saying? They can scan my brown eye.
There we go.
I have brown eyes. I have brown eyes. So I would probably do it, is what I'm saying. No, I wouldn't. I'm kidding. I wouldn't at all. All right, Cassius, back to, the Randy brought up a good point, Web2, Web3, how are we going to be able to onboard these people? They had a core team member. He had a pretty good quote here. Normal wallets are too overwhelming for normal people. I tend to agree with that assessment. Cassius, will seed phrases always seem overwhelming to people?
Unfortunately, yes. To some people, they will be. Trust me, I talked to a lot of people who are not in crypto, and it's just not for them. But one of the main points of crypto and decentralization, one of the things that we love so much about it, is that it gives you an option. This is about choice. So for the folks who do want to have, they can opt out of the system and do want to have, self-custody and control of their own bank, be their own bank and control their own keys. This is great that we have that option. However, there's a lot of folks who are like, I don't want to deal with all that. I trust me. I talked to a lot of people like that. They're like, oh, if I lose my password, I can't just call someone and get in. I don't have to remember that. I don't have to be responsible for that. So there's always going to be some folks who are like that. I do like the idea that crypto is always developing. There's always somebody trying to solve a problem that advances this, no matter what the market is doing. So, whether it be this wallet that is an option for some folks who don't want a complex wallet. If you read the article, a lot of it is about just kind of it's just simplifying the wallet. So it doesn't have many bells and whistles, but for some folks, that's going to be a lot easier. In the long run, I like the idea of development because it brings more wide adoption for folks who maybe this is just a stepping stone and they get in, they realize, oh, they do want a different type of wallet, or maybe they do want to have self-custody and learn more about it. This might be a kind of a stepping stone to lead into that. So it is what it is as far as this particular product. But in one way or another, I think all roads lead to the blockchain. I just want to say one of the things that Matty B was talking about, all the deep fakes and everything. I've been saying this for a while, with AI and everything like that. People are more and more going to start to question when they see a video if it's real or fake. And I think all roads lead to the blockchain for that verification. So I think that's ultimately where we're going.
I take it one step further. I don't take it. Neil Stephenson coined this in 1991 or 1993 with Snow Crash. The real worry with deepfakes is you can hide your bad behaviors by putting out so much bad behavior, everything gets lost in the noise. So not only will we not know what's real, you can hide what's real. That really might be the scary thing there. All right, let's move on. Final topic here, and that is crypto adoption by another country in Europe, the highest GDP in the globe per capita. I'm talking about Liechtenstein. Let's show it on the map. I'm sorry we're zoomed in so hard here. This right here is Switzerland. This right here is Austria. It is nestled in between them. It is one of the smallest countries. The GDP, I'm not kidding, it is actually the highest GDP per capita. It's a lot of banking there. It's a very small country. That's how they were able to do that. But GDP total only ranking about 155 out of 193, depending on who you ask, is Palestine. I'm not even going to go there. All right, shouldn't even have said that. But it's over 155 there. Prime Minister Daniel Riesch, he announced this just yesterday with a German business daily newspaper. And he said, when it comes to Bitcoin, it is too risky for them to hold it on their treasury. But quote, that assessment can, of course, change. Right now, you can pay for government services with Bitcoin. Some of these services, just think health services. Yeah, other countries, they do that through the government. Parking tickets, public transportation. You can now pay for it in Bitcoin. But before you get too excited, they're not holding it as Bitcoin. They're immediately going to just make it switch into Swiss francs there. So, Matty B, you're one of the few people not in America here, the only one on the panel at the moment here. Is this a nothing burger? I'm in my little bubble. I'm in my little USA bubble. It's surrounded by Big Mac wrappers. Is this a nothing burger because they're immediately switching it into Swiss francs? Or is there something here because it's a step towards something?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a nothing burger, but it starts with these little pieces, right? These little countries start coming in. Who knows if in this bull run, mass adoption happens, they're going to be, first on the list, and they're going to be a better country for it. But what they say, we're going to switch it to Swiss francs as soon as we get it. I mean, that's as ridiculous as not keeping the iris scan in their data. So that's what they tell you, but who knows what they're going to do. But I think any country that adopts Bitcoin is a good thing. There's no downside to it. But the fact that he's like, it's a little too risky to keep on our treasury makes me kind of think that A, he doesn't know a lot about it, and B, maybe he's just reading off a paper that he actually doesn't know anything about it. So at the end of the day, any country, anywhere, adopting Bitcoin is a good thing.
All right. Well, it kind of reminds me of the first major breakthrough we had was El Salvador. Now, Miss Teen Crypto, they came close to buying the top. So my question to you is, will they add Bitcoin to their reserves before the top of the next bull run? If not, what's your prediction?
I believe El Salvador. Are you asking about El Salvador or this?
Well,
other
they
country?
announced it in May. The first top was March. So, I mean, they were close to buying the top at the time.
El Salvador?
Yes. The first top.
I think I think El Salvador continued to buy throughout the bear market, if I'm not mistaken. I believe I saw something, but they've also started, Bitcoin-backed bonds during the bear market. So I don't think El Salvador's bullishness on Bitcoin is going away. In fact, they're really bullish because there was even the president, Nayib Bukele, he posted a screenshot of an article where people were saying that El Salvador was actually going to default on their debts because of their investment in Bitcoin. And he was saying it's quite the opposite, and they're going to continue buying, continue pushing adoption. They just passed a bill for people that are bringing innovation in terms of tech to El Salvador. So I believe they're going to keep going. I believe they're still bullish. And why wouldn't they be? Because once they enacted Bitcoin as legal tender, their tourism went up over 90% for El Salvador. It went from being one of the most dangerous countries to one of the most friendly to actually go visit and go vacation with your family now. So I think Bitcoin is actually helping a lot of countries, and I think others are realizing that. Now, I think this country accepting Bitcoin as payment is good because a lot of countries, and I believe I read it in regards to this country too, that was adopting Bitcoin as payment. I think it's really good because they're adopting Bitcoin as payment because there's so much volatility with other currencies that Bitcoin is actually giving that narrative of a stable currency for people to avoid volatility within their own fiat system. So I think all of this is really good. Any countries adopting Bitcoin is good. El Salvador is actually leading the way. And I think in the future, their treasury is going to be worth so much just because of all the Bitcoin they're stacking now.
I was just using an example. Will Liechtenstein add it to their treasury before the next bull run?
I could picture it 100%, especially if people start paying in Bitcoin quite often and they're starting to use the technology. I mean, that's how like a lot of people get orange pilled is they're like, oh, okay, let me accept some Bitcoin. How do I use this thing? Okay, press this button. I receive it anywhere in the world instantly, 365, none of these traditional borders. Why wouldn't you use it? And again, you have all these countries where sometimes you get paid on Friday and you have to spend your money by Monday because of the volatility with the fiat currency. Like the inflation is just so much that you just can't hold your funds. Bitcoin, even with the little dips in between, if you look at the chart short term, it's still a lot more stable than a lot of other currencies. So I think a lot more countries are going to realize that and accept Bitcoin as payment as well. Like you guys were saying, it's just a build up, little things, and everything just follows with it. That's the trend.
More volatile than, or less volatile than some of these meme coins for sure. I do want to share today's
stocks.
Brought to you by Incogni Privacy Browser, and they want me to shout out Bambi.cash. I'm joking. I wanted to shout that out. There, I got it in, guys. All right, Cassius, I talked about it on the morning stream. You have to watch it. Cassius, we have potentially Bitcoin going to be added by Liechtenstein here, El Salvador. I want to talk to you about maybe another cryptocurrency. If some of these nations were to branch out and start accumulating a second coin, what would that second coin be, in your opinion? Let's just leave it with Liechtenstein. Would it be XRP? Would it be Cardano? Would it be Ethereum, or maybe even something else?
I think the potential for Algorand is big. I mean, even El Salvador uses the Algorand blockchain for some of their record keeping, and Colombia's adopted some of it. Italy as well. So it's fast, cheap, easy to use. It's one of those ones that's kind of enterprise friendly, government friendly. So I would be on the lookout for Algorand to potentially be adopted by some governments.
All right. Algo. I know the Algo family is going to clip that one. They're going to love you for it. Tim Warren, final question here. The IMF, they retaliated against El Salvador for them adopting, Bitcoin instead of just kind of using U.S. currency. They imposed borrowing restrictions. They threatened other financial hardships. They wanted to pull, not give them as favorable interest rates on their loans. Do you see a similar situation playing out with Liechtenstein, and will that affect the outcome on whether or not they adopt Bitcoin?
Well, the first thing I'd say, DZ, is throwing back to an earlier segment. The IMF can go scan the brown-eyed, hole that we talked about earlier. No, ultimately, I don't think so, because like we talked about, Liechtenstein it's not. Okay, when this news broke, I pictured that meme, that guy celebrating, and he's like has the trophy, and he's acting like he just won, and then you zoom out, and he's like 9th place or something. It's great news to hear another country is adopting crypto, is going to be using Bitcoin and stuff. But then you look at the size of it, and it really means nothing. I mean, this country, it would be more significant for probably the city of Kennesaw to adopt Bitcoin and be using it. I don't know specifically, but it's such a small country. It's not going to have massive ripple effects. But you know what? We'll take it, DZ. We'll keep going on. As far as the IMF, I think the IMF, we've seen recently the IMF has expressed interest in maybe having one of their own CBDCs to kind of do what they want to do too. So I don't think that they're going to be going after Liechtenstein. I think we're moving more into a space where these governmental powers that want to keep power when it comes to currency, they're actually just starting to turn their attentions. They're letting the SEC go after and try to stifle cryptocurrency while they work on their CBDCs. I also think you go back and look at what they did to El Salvador, and like Randi said, did it actually affect El Salvador whatsoever? We actually see, of the few countries that are doing better than they were here a couple of years ago, El Salvador is one of them. They've gotten better as a country, not worse, where everybody else is starting to spiral out of control. Banks are going nuts. Government's going nuts. The currencies are going nuts. El Salvador is looking a lot more brilliant, despite the fact that their first purchase might have been higher than current price of Bitcoin. They are sitting here in a very good spot. So I'm happy for Liechtenstein. I hope that this works very well for them, but I don't think it's really worth anyone's time to FUD it or FOMO in because of it. Let's look for another country. Potentially, I know, there's a couple countries I've talked about. We're looking Brazil, Argentina, Nigeria. These are all countries that have expressed interest in the last couple of years about potentially starting to adopt Bitcoin and use it more frequently. That would be a massive win for crypto adoption. Liechtenstein, good for you, but sorry, it's just not significant.
All right, I'm going to throw out a DZ proclamation here. Liechtenstein, currently one of the banking capitals of the EU. Maybe they want to eventually be a Bitcoin banking capital of the EU, similar to UAE. I just want to throw that other acronym. But yeah, a lot of people like Dubai for how friendly they are with crypto. I can see Liechtenstein, keeping that GDP per capita highest in the world. This could be a good strategy. Liechtenstein, go ahead and start adopting it now. Please, you need to do it. All right, that is all we have time for. And Tim, he did a good run coming at Piano Matty B, nipping at the heels there, but I think it was just the DZ graphic actually put you over the edge, and it was the tiebreaker. So Piano Matty B. Tim, you're going to have to wear a DZ on your t-shirt next time. So Piano Matty B, you took it home. Feel free, leave us with some parting thoughts. I'll give you one of mine, Tim.
Is Cassius still here?
Yes.
Cassius, are you here? Well, I'd like to maybe share this with Cassius. I got a little beat here. I can play the drums and maybe he can throw a rap over it, right?
Oh,
how do you feel about that?
Come on, let's give it a try. Yeah. This ain't investment advice. You question my suggestion. Not professional professor taking profit my profession, but you still can learn a lot from the session. No question. DCA, because it's hard to time the bottom with perfection.
Oh, someone type out those lyrics later. Great. Piano Matty B sharing the stage with the electric keys there. Is this Daft Punk? We don't know. I don't know. I haven't seen them without their face. Maybe it's him. I think that's all we got. Guys, make sure you go into the description. Check out all the links. Everybody's putting out fantastic content. If you like what Piano Matty B was doing in the beginning of the show, he does it on his live stream all the time. Check it out. Miss Teen Crypto, one of the best TikToks. Cassius Cuvee, the best rapper. Sorry, Crown Chakra. And then T.A. Tim. Sorry we got your name right. We'll get it right next time. Hit that like button. That's all we got. Easy out.
Cuvee. All right, let's do it.
Cuvee.
Thanks, Matty B.